Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Diana the Musical. Diana the Musical is a stage musical that chronicles the life story of Princess Diana as well as the ups and downs associated with her turbulent marriage to Prince Charles. The musical pays tribute to Diana by highlighting the importance of her charity work and how she shattered preordained conventions established by the British monarchy, while also emphasizing the emotional turmoil that she had undergone as a result of her marriage to Prince Charles. And the musical makes it clear that there are other characters who experience turmoil in the story as well, specifically Prince Charles and his mistress Camilla, who are both stuck in marriages that neither person wants. So the musical does attempt to balance things out in this regard, but unfortunately we only get a small snippet of each character's struggles in this musical, none of which are told particularly well. I think Diana's actress did a good job with her performance, especially as far as the musical numbers are concerned, but her character lacks depth. The program glosses over all the important things about her and completely ignores all the little things that make her so notable. It feels like the program is trying to compile as much information as possible about her life into a 2-hour time frame, and for a woman as notable as Princess Diana, that just simply isn't possible. There is one token scene showing her interacting with AIDS patients and trying to promote AIDS awareness, but other than that, that's it. Anything else related to her charity work is restricted purely to dialogue, and that was something that really frustrated me when watching this program, because anyone who knew Diana when she was alive knew that she made a lot of wonderful contributions to charities all over the world, and in this musical, most of those contributions are largely ignored. The marital struggles between her and Prince Charles as portrayed in this musical was something else that rang hollow for me as well. The antagonistic relationship that's portrayed between the two is surface level at best. It feels like the musical is only interested in highlighting the drama that existed between the two, as opposed to highlighting any good moments that those two may have had together aside from the beginning, which is something that I would normally expect from a life story, and the musical never even shows how they were as parents to their children William and Harry. That was something that really baffled me when watching the show. Charles is a bit more realistic compared to his real life counterpart, but his character is so bland. He spends the majority of his time whining and singing about how he wants to spend more time with his mistress Camilla when he does it anyway, and then he spends the rest of his free time arguing with Diana and trying to restrict her freedoms. I swear, if this musical's version of Charles had a mustache, he would twirl the hell out of it. And speaking of Camilla, as weird as this is going to sound, I actually thought that her character had the best backstory out of the three involved in the love triangle. Up to this point, the only things that I knew about Camilla as a person were things I'd seen on the front pages of tabloids, and they weren't very flattering things to say the least. So I like how the musical humanizes Camilla as a person and a character in this respect, although I will admit it was hilarious to hear other characters in the musical refer to her as Rottweiler. Being that this is a musical, it makes sense for me to move on from the characters at this point and talk about all the musical numbers that are featured in it, of which there are many. Seriously, there are so many songs featured in this musical soundtrack that it's out of control and actually works against the story's favor. With the help of subtitles, I counted a total of 23 original songs, some of which play multiple times throughout the musical, and there's probably a few more that I'm missing on top of that too. All of the songs vary in length, and most of them aren't that good. By far, the biggest problem that each and every song in this musical soundtrack has going for it are the lyrics. Dear God, the lyrics are horrendous. A few examples of the bad lyrics involving Diana complaining to Charles about how he listens to classic music composed by dead white men when she herself listens to classic rock music that is largely composed by white men. An entire love song that Diana dedicates to Charles, and she switches back and forth between Spanish and French lyrics, and it happens completely out of nowhere. That whole song where Diana's portrayed as the pretty girl wearing a pretty dress, and how much that song made me want to tear my pretty hair out. And then there's the whole song revolving around the dress, which is based on the dress that Diana wore when she danced with John Travolta at the White House, and how it's always referred to as a feck dress, and they're referencing the F-bomb every time they say the word feck. Just... It certainly doesn't help that most of this musical's soundtrack sounds extremely generic. You could pick two songs completely at random from the soundtrack and play them one after the other, and with the exception of maybe a few songs here and there, you wouldn't be able to tell a difference between any of them. Despite its characterization and soundtrack being severely disappointing, its overall technical presentation does help to offset the bad things about it to a certain extent. Everything that you'd expect to see from a glitzy and glamorous stage musical is present in this one. Colorful set design, lines, excellent lighting, and with the benefit of it being a tape program, there's a few crafty editing techniques thrown in that really help to make scenes stand out from a visual perspective. Sadly though, most of these elements are only really noticeable during the musical numbers and not so much during the parts where people are just standing around talking to each other. Those parts are where I started to notice a lot of unintentional comedy begin to crop up. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen characters stop and start singing in the middle of their performances. It just made no sense. One moment a character might be singing their line in a very uplifting voice, and then the next thing you know they switch back to their regular speaking voice in the snap of a finger. It just cracked me up how there was no flow to the conversations in this musical whatsoever. And those are just the unintentional bits of comedy that I can think of. The parts where comedy are supposed to be there are just as bad, if not worse, especially when they involve James Hewitt trying to give Princess Diana riding lessons. It honestly stuns me how there can be so much inappropriate humor stuffed into a musical that's supposed to be about one of the most demure and beloved royal figureheads in all of British history. Overall, Diana the Musical is well intentioned with its purposes, but it is poorly executed in telling Princess Diana's story to the point of hilarity. If you're a hardcore fan of musicals and you enjoy Princess Diana's life story, you might get something out of watching this, but for me, this was a complete waste of time. You're pretty much better off waiting for Pablo Larraín's Spencer to come out. This musical doesn't tell you anything you don't already know about Diana, and its excessive and grating soundtrack made it a boring chore to sit through. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up my review of Diana the Musical. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the Dutch drama, Forever Rich. Bye bye!